Hello, masters. So, you want to up your manifesting game, huh? You want to get this shit to start working? Well, it's already working, but you want it to work the way you want it to work, right? You want to manifest that relationship, that abundance, and the life of your dreams. Well, here's the secret. Consciousness. This is what I teach my students in my paid coaching. 80 to 90% of your manifesting game is your Zen game. So that's what we're talking about in today's video. There's two main prongs to this. We're going to talk about doing a formal sit-down meditation. So what exactly is meditation? And then we're going to talk about kind of working this way of life into your daily life. And again, this cannot be overstated. This is everything, guys. This is almost the whole game. Consciousness is what causes things to manifest in your life, not thinking. So thoughts and emotions, that's the mind. Remember, body, mind, soul, right? So thinking and emotions, the mind, those are things for you to focus your consciousness onto. Thoughts are things, and so are feelings, emotions. But it's the observer effect of your consciousness that actually causes those things to show up in your reality. So this is critical, you guys. Your Zen game, right? So in other words, the true core of spiritualism, right? Real spiritualism, which is essentially just being. And that's really all it is. I'm going to recommend a book. I recommend this on almost all my YouTube videos. If you haven't heard me mention this before, it's called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, where he takes you more deeply into who you really are beyond the mind, that conscious being. It's that consciousness that you're tapping into here to make this manifesting thing work. Again, this is kind of the key secret that most law of attraction people, they don't talk about it a lot, and I don't think they're doing it to hide anything. It's just, I don't know, it's not something people talk about enough, and I don't understand why, because this is so critical. This is almost the whole game. And you hardly ever hear people talk about this. And this is the secret sauce that's made my coaching program so successful too, by the way. I've coached thousands of people in my spiritual coaching programs. Law of attraction, it's the same thing, guys. So this is big, big, big. Learning to meditate, experiencing yourself beyond this person, this mental identity that you believe yourself to be. So that's why I always recommend that book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. There's another one by Michael Singer called, not that one, Untethered Soul. Untethered Soul by Michael Singer. And they're both talking about the same thing, which is basic spiritualism, right? Ground level spiritualism. And it's genuine spiritualism. It's the Zen traditions. So in other words, again, body, mind, soul, body, mind, spirit, right? So going beyond mind. Who are you? In fact, the name of the first chapter of Eckhart Tolle's book, The Power of Now, is called You Are Not Your Mind. So check both of those books out. Now let's talk about meditation. I'm not here to give you a guided meditation. There's really no steps. In fact, it's the releasing of taking steps. It's the releasing of doing. It's the releasing of the doer. That is meditation. It's a being, right? So what this video is going to look like is kind of explaining how that works. And then you just got to go try it. And I'll give you some resources too. I've got some, guided meditations and stuff like that on this YouTube channel. I've assembled some playlists for you so that you can get started. And this is really important, you guys. Again, this cannot be overstated how critical increasing your consciousness is to your manifesting game. So I'm going to recommend that you meditate every day for at least 20 minutes. I mean, that's bare minimum. I do it twice a day. So I do a long meditation in the morning, like 45 minutes, and then I do another one in the evening for 20 minutes, and then I'm doing little micro meditations throughout the day. I'm always in a state of presence. That's what Eckhart Tolle calls it, and that's what all the great spiritual teachers have kind of called it all throughout time, this being very present. See, the mind is always past future, okay? It's thought. The mind is duality, right? That's what they've always called it. Even a psychologist is going to tell you that. The mind is duality, right? Yin yang, good, bad. I like it, I don't like it. Past, future, right? So this is kind of the basics of how our universe functions. And then the soul or source, and the soul, of course, is, I like to describe it as a holographic reproduction of the source, of the whole, right? And either way you slice it, the soul or the source, both are consciousness. There's a little bit of information that comes with the soul, but it's just consciousness. And it's the experience of self. So meditating, for example, if you're sitting there thinking, well, when is he going to get started? When is he going to start teaching me how to meditate? I am. This is how you meditate. And notice that there is thinking. Notice that there is thinking. Okay? There's thoughts and emotions going on. And then there's this conscious presence that notices thoughts and feelings. And you don't think your way into this consciousness, into the soul. You just are that. You release the thinker. It's not even that you're releasing the thinking or the emotion. It's just you're not that. You're not those things. And it's not bad to think or to have emotions. And a lot of people make the mistake of believing that meditation, the goal here is to stop thinking. That's impossible. Thinking is always going on. Eckhart Tolle, he says, yes, thinking is like digestion or your heartbeat. It never stops. It's always going on. It's just, you're not looking at it. You're not focusing on it. But who's you? Who is the you that would be looking at the thinking or the emotions? Who is that? This is the thing that you need to get first before you'll ever be able to go meditate. You don't need me to show you how to meditate, like by doing an actual meditation, right? You just need to understand who you are beyond concept. I keep wanting to say, you just need to understand these concepts, right? But what's really going on is you're going to be experiencing yourself as consciousness. You don't think your way there. So most people believe that they are this identity, this ego mind, right? Like a personality. If you walk up to anybody on the street and you go, hey, how are you? Nice to meet you. Tell me about yourself. They're going to tell you like a breakdown or a history of who they believe themselves to be, right? Like a story. They're going to tell you their job. They're going to tell you maybe places they've traveled, what their family is like, their political beliefs, whatever, the hobbies, right? And it's all concept and thought and emotion. It's all of these past experiences that constitute who they believe themselves to be, right? But who are you beyond the mind? Who are you beyond thinking and emotion? Right, you're the soul, right? And that's consciousness. Almost all consciousness, the soul. That's the true self. That's the true you. And consciousness is not thought or emotion. If you feel an emotion, And a lot of people make this mistake, especially in the New Age kind of woo-woo community. They think that like positive emotions, good emotions, emotions that we approve of, that's a spiritual experience, and it's really not. That's an emotion. If it's good or bad, if it can be described as a good emotion or a bad emotion, a positive emotion or a negative emotion, a good feeling or a low feeling, a high feeling or a low feeling, right? It's the mind. It's an emotion. This is the thing about consciousness, is it's neither good nor bad. It's just isness. It's just the true experience of self. And again, a lot of people, they make that mistake. I feel great. I'm feeling on high today. I don't know what this is. It's a big spiritual shift. I'm ascending. Yeah. I'm spiritual now. Yeah. And then like a week later, when they crash and burn, or somebody cuts them off in traffic, and they get mad, they go, what happened? I was doing so good, and I'm not spiritual now. I was on top of my spiritual game. You were not on top of your spiritual game. You were on top of your emotional game. And there's nothing wrong with that. So you got to watch out for that. There's a lot of people on the internet giving you the idea that spiritualism is something that it is not. They describe all of these emotional experiences, and then they put the label spiritual on top of it. Spiritual really is just consciousness. That's spirit. That's your soul. That's really all it is. And again, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel bad, but it doesn't feel good either. Now, the only best word that I think we could use to describe the experience of self, the true self, which is consciousness, right, would be peace or stillness or being. And you're not being anything. You're just being, just existing. You know, people have become so desensitized to simply existing that it's like they don't even notice it anymore. Right? So the art of Zen, think of like the Buddhist monk in the Far East and the way he lives. And I'm not saying you need to live like that. What I'm saying is you need to work this into your lifestyle. You know, slow down a little bit too. But again, when it comes to meditating, when you, for example, sit down, so let's talk about what happens when you meditate. When you sit down to meditate, when you're doing like a formal sit-down meditation, you can have music or not, doesn't really matter. Me personally, I don't meditate with any sound, and I love it. I don't do any breath work, any of that stuff. I just sit in silence. Oh, it's so good. Oh, man. And all you're doing is looking away from thought and emotion. That's all you're doing. But there's a you who's doing the looking. There's the consciousness. So here's a trick. Use your 5 senses. And this will make a lot of the techniques that you see, like meditation techniques that you see, this little bit, this will make them make a lot of sense to you. Because I'm telling you to use your 5 senses, right? So when I'm sitting there in my chair in the morning and I'm meditating, all I can hear is the air coming through the vent, right? And I'm just listening, and that's it. Just listening. And the mind is going to say, what's the point? Well, the point is to increase your consciousness, Mr. Mind, so be quiet. But then another thing, the mind is always going to try to sabotage you to suck you back into listening to thinking instead of listening to your 5 senses, right? So it'll say things like, it'll give you this big expectation like something's supposed to happen, right? The mind is going to, well, nothing's happening. Again, the mind is duality, so it only understands that. It's thinking there's got to be some big positive experience that happens. And if nothing happens, if you're just sitting there quietly, the mind is going to get fidgety and it's going to say this isn't working. So watch out for that stuff. That's called the mind coming in through the back door, right? It's going to come in through the back door and it's going to say, I'm supposed to be getting something out of this. You're not doing right, blah, blah, blah. All this thinking, or like some like tension in your body, some emotional tension. Because remember, the emotions are part of this too. And those are kind of hard to deal with because you feel them more viscerally in your body. But that's part of the whole system of the mind. And all you need to do is just relax your body. You can take a few deep breaths, release slowly. There's actually a thing to that. I'm going to make a video this week or next talking about intuition. And part of the technique that I'm going to teach you guys is triggering your sympathetic nervous system, right? So when you go like this, like that, you go, right? Excuse me. Like that. That's triggering the parasympathetic nervous system, and I can even feel adrenaline. I just felt it. Wow. Already made it all the way to my extremities. But if you do this instead, that triggers the sympathetic nervous system. So you can do that. But again, all the techniques in the world aren't going to help you. Ultimately, what you really need to do, the goal here is to look away from thinking and emotion. And you are the looker. You are this conscious focus, consciousness, attention, focus, awareness, right? Those all words all kind of are pointing to the same thing. And this is, by the way, this is why I like all the great spiritual masters, Buddha, Jesus, Tolle, Krishna, Yogananda, Ram Dass, right? They call these pointings. These are not teachings, because teachings are concepts. These are pointings, because what I'm trying to point at is something that I can't say. So there's this puzzle in the Zen traditions about what is the self. And Buddhists say, don't talk about it. Don't even ask that question. If you go up to a Buddhist and you go, hey, what is the self? They're going to go, and they're going to walk off. And you're like, what? Right? Now, a Hindu person, you walk up to them and you go, hey, what's the self? And they're going to talk about it the way that I'm talking about it. They're going to go, well, it's beyond concept and emotion. You don't understand it. And no amount of thinking ever helps you to get there. Thinking is just getting in the damn way. And again, we're not trying to stop thinking. That's another concept. Start, stop. Right? And I mean, maybe you'll hear like a spiritual teacher, if it's a good one, right? You might hear them, casually mention how they stopped thinking, in the course of a conversation, but they know that's not really how that works, right? You don't really stop thinking. You're just experiencing yourself as this conscious presence. And again, you experience it. You don't think about consciousness or the awareness of self, right? So it's beyond the mind. And a Hindu is going to tell you that. So who's right, the Hindu or the Buddha? Because you can't, as soon as you say that there is an it for you to be talking about, you're already doing it wrong, right? The it being consciousness or the self. And you say, well, what is it? I can't talk about it because it's not form, right? It's beyond form. It's not, wrong one. It's not duality. It's not concept. It's not a belief system. Here, I'm going to show you this in a second. This is about dichotomy. And But before I do, I just want to point out, again, you're looking on the internet, you're gonna get a lot of this, right? And I'm not here to, put anybody down or anything. I think everybody's just trying to help out, Everybody's just trying to give you advice and stuff. But this is what I'm talking about, right? It's not a belief system. That's why, like, a lot of people on the internet, Eckhart Tolle talks about this all the time. They have a spiritual ego. That's what Eckhart calls it. They have a spiritual ego where they've made spirituality their identity, which is not spiritual. Spiritualism really is consciousness, but they've made it into this belief system in our modern world. So, this is, I think, B. B is what you would call like a negative emotion. Anger, sadness, boredom, apathy, right? Not B is going to be, happiness, joy, excitement, whatever, passion maybe. Okay, A, that's the thing that you can't talk about technically. You can point at it. I can keep using all these different ways to point you at it, but you got to experience it. You got to experience it. And this is kind of the root of spiritualism, genuine spiritualism, this concept, right? But this here, A, is not concept. These are concepts. These you can understand, right? But non-duality is what, spiritual masters, they're always going to be talking about this. Eckhart Tolle, Rupert Spira, right? They're always talking about non-duality. Science, by the way, they just call it singularity, and that's where the whole universe came from. But there's no way for you to think your way into this, is what I'm trying to show you. So this is just another way of me trying to teach that to you. Just because you feel good doesn't make you this. You don't need to switch your mood, guys. You just need to switch your mode. And again, you believe that you are this entity that's trying to understand me right now. And if you're getting frustrated, you're like, this explanation doesn't make any sense. This video is too long, blah, 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 right? That's not you. That's my whole point. You are the awareness of the thinking and the emotion. And when you meditate, all you're doing is just experiencing that. And again, you can take a few deep breaths to kind of relax your body, your sympathetic nervous system. But when you're sitting there, again, all you're really doing is every time a thought comes along, you just kind of look away from it. And looking away from it, what that is going to be reshifting your attention to your five senses, what you can hear, what you can see. You can feel your body. You can feel it, right? And that's something we're going to talk about in my upcoming intuition video, which is a technique called induction, which is where you move awareness around in your body. And that's actually a great way to meditate. You might even just hop on YouTube and just type in Joe Dispenza induction meditation, right? It's a really great way to start. But again, really what you're doing is experiencing yourself beyond this mental and emotional entity. And that entity believes itself to be a living person. But it's not. It's an imprint. It's an echo. It's a phantom. It's a bunch of old tape recordings playing over and over and over again, right? So to meditate is to experience yourself instead as something completely different, something that you can't think about, and you don't need to think about it. You just experience that deeper consciousness, that being, right? And again, every time thinking comes as you're meditating, A thought comes, you don't fight it, you don't resist it, you just notice it. And you just look at it with curiosity and then reshift your focus back to your five senses. You don't want to like fight the thought or, oh, I can't believe how much I'm thinking, because that's more thinking. Now you're thinking about the thinking. You don't want to do that either, right? So this is simply being. I am simply existing, and that's all. And if a thought comes, you just let it pass like a bird just flying by. Just let it go. And an emotion too. So you're not doing this to change the mind. Changing the mind, that's what all the law of attraction content is about. But that's not even possible if you don't increase your consciousness first. That's the first thing that you got to do, guys. And so you're allowing the mind to do whatever it's doing. You're just kind of taking your hands off the wheel and sitting there existing with the mind, experiencing yourself as this exister, right? And again, your fast track way into experiencing that is going to be your five senses. And you can feel your body too. Again, Joe Dispenza's induction meditation. I do have 3 playlists on this YouTube channel. There's my Ishq playlist. And Ishq, I picked songs that are more zen, more tenuous, more mellow. They do have stuff that came out later that was more electronic-y, but their older stuff is very peaceful, and it's really relaxing, and it's really easy to meditate to. So I've got an Ishq playlist. ISHQ, Ishq, is where you can find that. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of them, but I love them. And I like to do like a walking meditation to Ishq in the evenings. So I will actually listen to a little Ishq or something while I'm looking out the window. I'll look at the sky, I'll look at the clouds, and I'll just get very present and very still. Again, the mind is going to tell you that something's supposed to happen and you're supposed to be accomplishing something. And when nothing happens, the mind gets fidgety. So watch out for that, because that's not how this works. And yes, something will happen eventually, right? The more that you're doing, and you got to do this every day, guys. You got to make this a way of life. You start doing this, you don't ever stop. You do this for the rest of your life. You work this into your life, right? This building out spaciousness. And I'm not saying to not go have fun, and I'm not saying to live like a monk. We're going to talk about that in a second. But do you need to doom scroll on your phone all day? I mean, just make time for it, guys. You have the time. Trust me. Okay, I've also got another playlist on my YouTube channel here. Just go to the playlist menu. So the first one was Ishq. The second one is guided meditations, if you like. And those are pretty good. But again, the basics that I'm teaching you in this video are huge. Even the guided meditations, they don't really assist you if you don't understand these basics first. Okay, the third playlist is just called Zen. So go check that out. It's got a lot of really great music on it that you can meditate to. Let's talk about a few lifestyle changes. Real simple. I work in little micro meditations. So throughout the day, I'll just take pause for just a minute or two, right? And you can do this every hour or two. You don't have to make this giant lifestyle change, right? So even when you're at work, just look away from your desk for just a minute and get grounded. Place yourself in this state of stillness. Notice the mind thinking and the emotions going that you're having, whatever it is. Just notice them, and that's it. That's The whole point of meditating is to just notice. And that's all. You're not trying to accomplish anything, actually. Will consciousness increase gradually over time the more that you work these meditations into your daily life? Yes. But how to get there is to stop trying to get somewhere. Remember, the mind is duality. So past, future. So even when you're doing a micro meditation, I mean, you can meditate in the middle of a hurricane, guys. It doesn't need to be perfectly quiet at all. That's another myth. So even if there's noise going on, listen, and that's all. That's really meditation, guys. You just listen. It's not, my environment isn't the way it should be, right? So be here, and it isn't not be. My environment is perfect. It's nice and quiet. You're over here experiencing yourself as the listener, listening to just whatever is, and that's it. And you just do it for a minute or two, guys. Just work it into your schedule every hour or two. So work in these little micro meditations. Another fun thing that I like to do is, there's kind of two things. I have my coaching students, right? All of my coaching students, Law of Attraction, spiritual students, all of them. They're on my website. If you want to check out my coaching, by the way, my paid coaching, it's the best there is. It's super affordable. I have payment plans too. It's already not that much money, but then I already also have payment plans, right? So you can start for like really cheap. Well, anyway, I'll have them get a pad of sticky notes, right? And just write "stay present" on like 10 or 15 of them and put them around your house. So when you walk in the room, it triggers you to stop being so heavily invested in thought or emotion. It's like you're thinking and you don't realize like how much your consciousness is absorbed into this thinking. You're so focused on the thinking. And then you see that sticky note and you're like, oh, wait. And you just stop right in your tracks and place yourself in this state of stillness. Just recalibrate and just work this into your daily life. You guys, I still go to concerts. I listen to rock and roll. I'll have a couple alcoholic beverages every once in a while. Yeah, it's not a problem. That's not it. It's not that stuff. Although getting enough sleep and sleeping on a regular schedule, that is going to help. And any medical doctor is going to tell you how important that is. So if you drink a lot, you might want to cut that back. You might want to eat better foods and get enough sleep, right? Because is it going to be easier or harder for you to do this if you feel like shit all the time? I'm just saying. So that's the deal. That's the spiel. Recommend watching this video a couple of times. Go try meditating for a week and then come back and rewatch this video and it'll make a lot more sense to you. So there you go, guys. I'll see you later.